I wonder, have you seen the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers? There's a few versions of it. The one that I like is the 1970s one starring Donald Sutherland. It's a curious sort of alien invasion movie about these spores or something that arrive from outer space, and they grow as these little flowers. And if you fall asleep near one of these things, a duplicate of you starts to grow out of a big massive seed pod sort of thing, and it drains all the energy out of you until there's nothing left but a husk, a dead husk. And then it wakes up as your duplicate, perfectly like you in every respect, even contains all your memories, so it's essentially you, except for one small difference, which is it doesn't feel any emotion. Right? It can fake emotion in order to blend in so that your friends won't know that you've been replaced, but it doesn't feel emotion. So in terms of non-duality, this curious spirituality that I subscribe to, is that what we're aiming for? To become a pod person, essentially? Feeling no emotion? Because I think some people look at it that way. And I'm not sure they realize the gravity of what they're pursuing when they pursue it in that way. The idea, of course, is that you are not your mind. Your identity is something further back. You are the universe. You are God, if you like. You are the mysterious ground of being experiencing what it's like to be a creature. There's no actual entity inside the head. Right? Words like mind, psyche, soul all point to an object that is not an object. It's more of a flow, it's more of an action. Consciousness is verbing away. It's not an actual object sitting inside the head. How do I know that? Because there are no objects anywhere. All objects are just aggregates of smaller things. The universe is essentially one, right? That's a very brief summary of something that would have to be unpacked in a far more elaborate way to be understood. But I'm just hoping that people who've clicked on this video know something about non-duality already. So, non-duality pod people, who are they? They're the ones that display a kind of saintly, serene otherness. They're not the ones like me who just are an ordinary human being. There's plenty of regular ones. I mean, I like teachers like Paul Hederman, Brad Warner, who's a Zen Buddhist, Alan Watts, the dear departed Alan Watts, was always a very ordinary man. Then we have people who are a little more problematic for me, like Rupert Spira. Not so much problematic for what he says, but for how he presents himself. Eckhart Tolle is another one. There are many more, Gary Weber. And the problem is they're giving off an air that they have reached some other kind of consciousness wherein suffering has been transcended. Now maybe they don't all claim that, but some of them do. You can't transcend suffering. This is what I'm getting at. You can kind of pretend that you have, and even to do that's not necessarily desirable. The reason why you can't transcend it is because you are a creature with a sensitive being. Regardless of what you want to think about the nature of the mind, the non-existence of the ego, there is still a creature existing in a potentially hostile world. And this creature has all kinds of emotions and instincts that are designed biologically and evolutionarily to serve him to survive, right? So we don't get to demonize emotions like anger and fear, or hang on to emotions like love and affection. It's all part of the same package. Yes, we have to choose carefully how we use those emotions, but they're all there to serve us, right? Fear is a very prevalent reality for the rest of the animal kingdom. Think of the gazelle running away from the lion, right? think of any situation even that might evoke fear in us, such as being chased by an assailant who wants to mug you, maybe carrying a knife. Your veins fill with adrenaline that gives you extra strength to run away. It's all working perfectly. Anger as well is very much a call to action. It's generally not good to suppress anger, because it tends to just become internalized then, and it wants to leak out on any available target. It's also not great to just blindly express your anger. You have to think carefully whether you're justified in feeling angry. Maybe you're just being irrational, right? So we have the mental faculties to buffer that emotion and evaluate it, and then decide what to do with it. But some people just don't like being uncomfortable, because some emotions are uncomfortable, right? And they want out of the whole game. So non-duality looks like it provides an exit, because you are not your mind. You are the observer of the mind, right? You can say something like, I can't stand myself. And it's as if there's two I's. There's the I can't stand myself, talking to oneself as if there are two selves. And I don't say that as if that's some great epiphany. It's really just a linguistic trick. It's not that there are two I's. Come on. Yes, I can still observe the contents of my mind, particularly if I sit and meditate and just watch what my thoughts are doing. But that doesn't mean that I have now become some kind of separate spaciousness that observes the creature. If someone were to just suddenly attack me while I'm meditating, instantly I'm straight back into ordinary waking body consciousness. You know, there's nothing profound about this state of spaciousness that Eckhart Tolle would talk about. I don't see anything profound about it. I just see it as I'm being watchful. I, as a conscious creature, am being watchful of my own mind. You know, yes, it is true that you are not your thoughts, but at the same time, you can't get very far away from them. So if you want to become this kind of spacious awareness that observes the cacophony of the mind, and maybe there's things in your mind that you want to get away from, right? So it kind of lets you think, oh, I'm over here and the mind is over there, and I don't have to deal with that. I am all is well, I am the ground of being. You know? I've spoken to someone who went down that road and ended up having a psychotic break because he wasn't dealing with the things that he needed to deal with. So the problem, not to get too far afield from what I wanted to talk about, this idea of a non-duality pod person, right? If you want to get away from everything uncomfortable, you can only attempt to do that by getting away from everything, because the whole spectrum of emotion goes together. So you want to practice this thing, non-attachment, right? You're detached from the ego completely. Is that really something you want? Now, I know the ego is fictitious, but the ground of being is still here, experiencing every piece of what it means to be a creature intimately, right? Including familial relations, other close relationships. I don't care about a neighbour 2 streets away the same way I care about my best friend. You know, that's all natural. But I always remember Gary Weber saying that the last attachment he had to overcome was his attachment to his daughter. I thought that's horrible. And I always remember reading in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance about the father and the son were traveling together and they were walking up a mountain or something like this, and the son was walking ahead and he was like trying to do something, and he'd set himself internally some kind of task, and he was trying to be better, to get ahead in where they were trying to get to. And the father, in turn, I can't remember the details. Sorry, I would have to reread this. But the dad internally to himself, without expressing this to the son. The dad said, "That's ego. He's experiencing ego there." And I thought, you're a crap father. There's nothing wrong with a competitive spirit being inside a person. I can have a competitive spirit, realizing that it's all part of the game of life, and realizing at the same time that I'm the ground of being beyond all that. It all goes together. This thing, thinking about Gary Weber and non-attachment to his daughter. Let's say I had a son and he was a football player, and I went to see him at a really important match. Let's say it was for the cup, and there I was in the audience watching the final minutes of the match, and it's a draw so far between the two teams, but my son scores the winning goal. And he goes, "Yeah!" And he swings around and he's looking for his dad in the audience, and he sees me and he goes, "Yeah!" And he's expecting his dad to go, "Yeah!" And his dad goes, I'm not attached to any outcome. All life is equally valid and equally important. I'm not attached to the outcome of either team winning." If you want to take some kind of cosmic approach to it within the body, that's true. There is no real value in one team over another winning. Somebody has to lose and feel the negative emotions associated with losing. But you're not supposed to feel that cosmic consciousness when you're just dealing with your family in this way. You're supposed to be happy that your son won and the others didn't. That's normal, that's healthy. You don't want to be a pod person who feels nothing. You see what I'm getting at? Don't use non-duality like that. You're supposed to be attached. You could get overly attached. An example of that could be football hooliganism, say, right? Where, we decide to pick a fight with the other team. Whereas non-attachment would be to sit in the audience and not care who wins. There's a kind of a happy medium. Can you see that? You're attached, but you still realize that it's a game. And that's true of life too. Life is a game. So I'm attached to it. I'm not going to start walking in front of buses. But I also understand that my own death is really not that big a deal, cosmically speaking. I understand both sides of it, you see? Get used to having negative emotions. Get used to having, by negative I mean uncomfortable, right? They're not really bad emotions. They all serve a purpose. Get used to there being uncomfortable things in life. The quest to relieve all suffering is a smokescreen. You're never going to do it because you're a sensitive creature facing a hostile world. That's just reality. So get off that line of reasoning and just accept non-duality for what it can do for your life, which is to give you a really good perspective on life and death, on what's important and what's not, and understanding essentially that life is playful and that it's forever, in the sense that something beyond space-time put this all in motion, and it all seems to just keep churning and churning, life after life after life. That is simply to be accepted on its own terms. You see? And it's enough to carry the suffering of one person and the tribe to which that person belongs. Because we are tribal. We're not built to carry the suffering of the entire human race. If Gary Weber says he's not attached to his daughter, does that mean he loves everyone as much as he loves his daughter? Or does that mean he loves his daughter less? I think it can only mean he loves his daughter less, because we're not built to carry all of the worry and anxiety that would come with loving everyone equally. That's insane. Yeah, I literally do not care what happens to the people down the street. That's just me being honest, because they're not part of my tribe. But I care very much about what happens to the people that I regard as members of my tribe. Family members and close friends. Bottom line, don't be a pod person. You won't really be able to achieve it, and whatever progress you make in that direction is just going to take a lot of vitality out of your life. And life should be vital. You know, vital existence was one of the principles mentioned by a certain person that I talk about, whose name begins with A, L. Anton LaVey. Right? Take care, folks.